A lot of conversation out there in the college football and college athletics universe about NIL and how collectives are involved. BYU does have an endorsed collective, the Royal Blue Collective. Well, what is it? We're going to let you hear from the man who runs it himself, Mark Comer, coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Always appreciate you guys making it a part of your routine to check us out, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for your support. We are your only daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. And please now to welcome in a member of the BYU's Royal Blue Collective Board of Directors, Mark Comer. Mark, thank you for carving out some time. I'm excited to catch up with you. But first off, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Things are good. You know, spring football is happening, so that means that fall football is just around the corner.
It's coming pretty quick, and we can't wait for that, obviously. But there's been a lot of people out there, and trust me, in the last 2 weeks alone, I've had no less, I think, 4 or 5 of my listeners ask me, Jake, can you explain more about what NIL is and what this new collective, the Royal Blue Collective, of which you are a part, what it's doing for BYU athletics and, of course, BYU student athletes. So I'm going to start with a big picture question and ask you, okay, Mark, the Royal Blue Collective is endorsed by Brigham Young University, but what is the Royal Blue Collective?
Really, it's a group of people that want to support BYU athletics and want to help BYU compete at the highest level. When the NIL deal started happening, when the Supreme Court kind of ruled that college athletes could get paid for their name, image, and likeness, it changed. It changed the environment, the college sports environment, maybe forever. And so the Royal Blue Collective, what we do is we are a group of people. We have a board of directors that we take donations and we help facilitate different support, financial support, and other support for BYU athletes.
Now, obviously, name, image, and likeness has been around for it's actually over a year now, where it's been essentially legalized by the NCAA. There were very few guardrails put on it in the first place, and to be honest, the NCAA has done very little to put guardrails in place at all during all of this. But BYU, I thought, was approaching this from the right perspective. Some people criticize them for being a little bit slow about getting a collective up and running, or at least endorsing one. Can you explain the whole process of getting to the level you guys are at now with the Royal Blue Collective, and also having it associated with BYU, or at least endorsed by BYU?
You know, it was a long process, and BYU is a unique school and a unique university for the good, and sometimes that creates different types of challenges when you're doing things. I think that the goal of the church-owned school, isn't to go pay a whole bunch of money to athletes to have them come to BYU. It's much bigger than that. And so the process, we decided, Brian Hawkins and I, about over a year ago, we got together, and actually with Russ White, who's president of Encore Sports.
Correct.
I was doing some NIL deals with him just because I wanted to help out some of the athletes. And he started telling us, because he's in that world, that there were some collectives that were being formed. And at that time, there were maybe 15 collectives in the country. Now there's over 200. But and we thought that the best way to be able to really help support the athletes as a whole was to start a collective. So we started it, and we talked to BYU. Now, one thing that's really important is the collective's not controlled or ran by BYU athletics. It's completely independent. So we are independent. The decisions that we make, the things that we do, completely independent of BYU athletics. And there's a lot of things that BYU athletics and coaches cannot do when they're recruiting players and talking about things that possibly the collective could do for them. So we went through the process and went up to the highest levels of BYU to make sure that we were in line with them, with the mission of the church, the school, and the athletic department. And so it did take a little bit longer. The process was a little bit longer, but then we felt that, we got to the point where the comfort level was really high for both the school and for us as a collective, that we're doing things the right way. And so we launched in December officially. And, things have been going well. There've been some really great things that we've been able to do with the student athletes.
Now, obviously, you guys work with the entirety of the BYU athletic department. It's not just the football program or the basketball program. You guys are there for every student athlete that's inside the BYU athletic department. That's a pretty massive undertaking, if I'm speaking honestly, because there's hundreds of student athletes. How difficult versus how easy can that be to help every individual athlete, but also make sure you're taking care of the whole at the same time?
It's a really good question. And by the way, to your prior question, the NCAA really doesn't they want to have as much control as they can, but there's really not a lot they can do. In my opinion, they blew it before it ever went to court. There were things that the NCAA could have done to help take care of the student athletes and help support them better. And they just didn't do it. And I don't think in a million years they thought they would lose, and they lost 9-0 was the vote. And so it's interesting because we want to, and one thing that's great about Encore being our operating partner is they're very up to speed on all the rules, the guidelines, the guidance of how we need to be doing the things that we're doing. And that's been really helpful, really, really important, because as BYU, obviously they want to make sure that they're doing everything exactly right. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything right. So our concept with the Royal Blue is, it's a whole athlete. It's taking care of the whole athlete. And football is king at BYU, and basketball is right there behind them. And so we wanted to focus on those programs first. But as we developed and as things evolved, we have about 5 different areas that all athletes at BYU can get benefit from the collective. And one of them obviously is financial support, and that's kind of focused in certain areas. And within teams, there are certain players in certain situations that some kids might get a little bit more support than others. But we have a financial literacy program that we'll be launching with with all the athletes. That will be a series of classes that will allow them to learn about taxes and entity setup and different things that maybe most of them aren't getting taught in school, but things that are really, really important. We have a mental health and performance program that will be launched for all the athletes as well. We have a branding and marketing series we're going to do. So there's other things that we're doing for all the athletes outside of the financial support. Our ultimate goal is to be able to give financial support to all athletes. But like you said, it's quite an undertaking. And so that's where we're going towards. But in the meantime, there are a lot of other things that all of the athletes will be able to benefit from.
Now, you talk about the financial literacy and the mental health aspects. I do want to dig into those, and we'll get to those in just a moment. I do first need to get a word in on one of our great sponsors here on Locked On Cougars. That's our friends over at FanDuel. Of course, they've been working with us for the past few months. Of course, the NCAA tournament heating up in the men's and women's brackets. Now is the perfect time for you guys to download FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, because new customers are getting what they call a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 back. It's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. You can also do some of their exclusive bets, like a 2x3, which is 2 3-pointers made in the first 3 minutes of any given game. Plus, FanDuel lets you even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. Don't miss out on the action. Get your no-sweat first bet now from your friends over at FanDuel at FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more now. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Also brought to you today by our friends over at Perry Homes. Of course, Perry Homes has been working with us for the past few months. They're a great, great company. If you're looking for your first home or you're ready to upgrade to your dream home, Perry Homes has a house for you. For 50 years, Perry Homes has been Utah's premier home builder with communities throughout the state. They got many communities, home designs, and price points to help meet your needs. They got beautiful communities in Davis, Salt Lake, Tooele, and Utah counties, as well as multiple communities in Washington County near St. George. Depending on where you want to live, they've got an option for you. Perry Homes offers over 50 unique home designs from ramblers to 2 stories and townhomes as well. They even have quick move-in homes available if you're ready to move right away. And they offer generous financing incentives through their preferred lender as well. So visit perryhomesutah.com to see what's new in Utah's finest neighborhoods. That's perryhomesutah.com. For 50 years, Utah families have been coming home to Perry Homes. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Continuing on here with Mark Comer from the Royal Blue Collective. And Mark, when it comes to the situation, you said the financial support obviously is the one that gets the headlines when it comes to NIL and these student athletes, and for good reason. Obviously, they're generating a bunch of money, especially in the college football and college basketball realms. But with the Royal Blue, you mentioned the fact that you guys are doing what they call financial literacy, at least you're launching that. Now, I've had an opportunity to have student athletes both on my radio show for the KSL Sports Zone with DJ and PK, as well as on this very podcast doing some NIL type stuff. And the conversation I've had with those student athletes, both from Utah and BYU, is my first question to them is like, okay, have you ever paid taxes before? And to a man so far, none of them have said, I'm gonna have to figure that out. Is the financial literacy side of that going to help with stuff like that?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there were a number of athletes at some other schools last year that had NIL deals that are really desperate for deals this year to pay the taxes that they didn't know they were supposed to pay last year.
Okay.
And I've spoken with a number of student athletes as well. And that has been one thing that every one of them said, wow, that's great. So because these athletes and some of these athletes are starting to make money and they need to understand, is it better to have an entity? What should I do for taxes? What should I do to start, maybe creating an investment or a savings account? So yeah, absolutely. We'll be covering all that and also give assistance to those that decide maybe they have some tax questions or things, but we want to be there to help educate them and support them.
So do you guys have people that are part of the board of directors associated with the collective that are CPAs and that type of stuff to help them with stuff like that?
Andrew Van Buren is, yep, he is a stud. And so he has developed this, it's kind of a series, a video series, but there will be some some live stuff that we do as well. So it will be his system and his team that will be putting that together. And so, yeah, he's very well qualified and has done very well with that.
Oh, that's awesome. Because stuff like that, I think people, these athletes, trust me, I've talked to enough of them. They're like, yeah, I didn't realize that, the tax man, that bill does come true. I'm like, come due. And I'm like, yeah, it does. The Uncle Sam will get his money from you. I can tell you that much.
Those are lessons that you're going to learn at some point in your life, and the sooner the better.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the mental health component. Now, I remember when you guys launched this, I remember reading up on the Royal Blue, trying to get intel on it. I read about the mental health component here, and I think it's absolutely a critical thing, especially with this younger generation. There's so many things that they're facing, especially as athletes. They got school. Mm-hmm. In many cases at BYU, a lot of them are married, maybe have kids. They also have to focus on their sport, and their mental health can take a toll. What are you guys doing on that front to support that?
Well, I'll give you kind of some high level stuff, and when it's launched, it's going to be an amazing program. One of our board members also, that's an area that he's done a lot in, and so we've been able to put together a program, and we will have some people running that program with the athletes that will give them a lot of different options, some one-on-one stuff, anxiety, stress, that type of stuff, and also sports performance. And so the program, as we speak, it's being finalized, and I think it's going to be something that's really, really going to be helpful for the athletes.
Now, I'm going to ask you this just because I'm generally curious, and I think some of my listeners are curious. How many opportunities / I guess NIL deals have you guys been able to I guess facilitate to this point?
Right now, it's over 100.
Okay.
And 100 different, opportunities, and it goes across, I think 5 or 6 sports right now. And so we've done a lot of things. There's a lot of things that don't get in the papers and don't get on the radio, sports talk shows and things, but there's some really great things that we've been able to do that have already had some really good impact on some of the athletes so far. And our goal is, man, we want to impact. We want the Royal Blue to be something that when these student athletes graduate, and it's really interesting because, probably 80% plus of the student athletes think they're going to be able to get paid to play, right, professionally.
Yes.
But the real numbers and the real stats are it's right around 1% ever will. And so we want to be able to give the athletes a plan B, something that they, not only educate them on some areas, but we have a mentoring program that we will also be launching that will give the athletes the opportunity to start networking in the areas where they're studying, their interests. And so if plan A doesn't work, that they don't get drafted or don't, get paid professionally, they already have a good network established, because there's no, and, probably only Cougar fans listen to this, I would guess, but other fans may argue, but BYU is one of the greatest business network schools in the country. Mm-hmm. And, there's great schools out there, and, Stanford and USC and all the, but Cougar Nation is unique in a good way. And there are, there's 5 or 6 billionaires that live within 20 minutes of LaVell Edwards Stadium that love BYU athletics. And so you want to be able to have these athletes tap into those networks while they're here. And if it works out, they play professionally, that's awesome. But if not, they have some really good career options. And so when they're done at BYU, this impacts them long after they graduate from BYU.
Now, I can speak to that directly, because I actually have a roommate of mine when I was at BYU who has graduated from both BYU and Stanford now. He's gone to both schools. He has tapped into both networks, and I can tell you this much. He wants nothing more than to have success, and I need to put you actually probably in touch with him, because he's one of those guys. I think that what you're talking about, the connections you make at BYU extend out just – it's incredible the amount of people that if you have a connection to BYU, you've got a connection to them. And I think you can speak to that directly as well.
100%. And the thing about that, it's not just a local Utah Valley connection.
Yeah.
It's all over the country, all over the world for that matter.
Yeah. For example, what I'm talking about, he lives in Seattle right now. So that is where he's based. And it's just fun. It's fun to see that. And I've talked with enough BYU football players and basketball players over the year, even after they've left BYU. They talk all the time about the connections they made while they were in Provo and how it's positively impacted them. And I think that's what you guys are trying to pick up here and just kind of carry forward and even expand to a degree.
Yep, that's right.
All right. So I also want to get a couple other thoughts, and there's also a really cool giveaway that's going on. I saw it kind of get out on social media earlier this week. There's a few days left to get in on this. We'll talk about that here in just a moment, but I also need to get one more word in on one of our great sponsors here at Locked On Cougars, our friends over at Utah Community Credit Union. Mark, do you guys work with UCCU at all, with the Royal Blue at all?
At this point, we don't. I believe Encore does.
Sure.
But there's actually a few things going on with some different banks that we feel could be really good support mechanisms for the students as well.
Absolutely. So just real quick on this, UCCU has opened a new branch in Vineyard, and to celebrate, they are giving away a 2023 Kawasaki Teryx 4 UTV. The new branch offers all the benefits of a UCCU branch: multiple drive-up lanes, a 24-hour ATM, and what UCCU is calling their new interactive teller machines, or ITM for short. They provide all the benefits of meeting with a real-life UCCU professional, either in the branch or right from your vehicle. It's a virtual connection with a remote teller with a highly personalized audio and video connection. So celebrate with UCCU and enter to win that 2023 Kawasaki Teryx 4 UTV. The winner's going to be announced in April, but the entry deadline is March 31st. So just days left for you to enter to win that 2023 Kawasaki Teryx 4 UTV. Stop by UCCU's new branch in Vineyard today, or enter to win at uccu.com. Hurry. The best part is you don't have to be a member of UCCU to enter, and there is no purchase necessary. That's UCCU. Love where you bank. Thank you once again for checking out Locked On Cougars and making us your first listen of the day. Now, a quick reminder for you guys, if you've not checked it out yet, check out Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton got you covered on everything with regards to college hoops, with the March Madness rolling on. Hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout college basketball as well. That's Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, just like this show. All right. Final few moments here with Mark Comer from the Royal Blue Collective. And Mark, I'm going to get this out of the way right now. I saw it on social media earlier this week. Guys like Isaac Rex, I saw Connor Pay hopped on social media. There's a really cool giveaway you guys over the Royal Blue are doing this week. Can you let our listeners know what they can do to win some really cool swag?
Yeah, it's donations. And what's interesting, just real quick, just so everybody understands, We have some bigger donors that are donating money and supporting it. We have some companies that are supporting the Royal Blue. But also Cougar Nation needs to support Cougar Blue, and they can. I kind of think, I was actually last night talking to one of the other board members, and you think, there's 65,000 fans that go to the games on Saturday. If you had each fan donate $10 to the collective, that adds up quickly. And something to be really clear about is, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, there's kind of, people don't really understand NILs in general.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of, if you talk to most people, there's a little bit of a negative connotation to that when they hear that, because of what they've read about some of these crazy deals that have or haven't happened, right?
Yeah, Jaden Rashada would like a word about that multi-million-dollar deal that fell apart at Florida.
Unbelievable. And there's a number of stories like that, right?
Yep.
But these student athletes, they, like you said, a lot of them have kids, or married, have kids. They are perfecting their craft. They're going to school. They can't go get jobs. Mm-hmm. And so people think, well, they have a scholarship. That's awesome. And they're very appreciative of that. But we've had many athletes that don't have money to buy food. They don't have money to buy just the necessities, that don't have furniture in their apartments because they can't afford it. So it's really important, because the support that we're giving, we're not giving support so somebody can go out and buy a brand new Lambo, right? We're giving support to help these athletes be able to focus on what they need to focus on, and not have to worry as much about some of those financial things, right now, when they can't go out and get a job. And so with this promotion that we're doing, we launched our website in December. We are a 501c3. So if a company comes to us and wants to donate, we can put together deliverables with that company, with athletes that they want to promote their company. And then that's a marketing expense for their company. But if somebody doesn't have an entity, they just want to get involved and help support the athletes. It is a 501c3, so it's a charitable donation. When we launched in December, we've had probably, 150 plus Cougar fans just go to the website and donate anywhere from $25 to $5,000. And that's a charitable donation. So what we're doing right now is just, giving people the opportunity, kind of letting them know what we're doing. And at a minimum $25 donation to the Royal Blue, they'll be in a drawing to win a signed BYU football. I think there's a couple of mini helmets. I think there's 3 or 4 things that we're giving away. So anybody that goes between now and Saturday and donates $25 or more, they're going to be eligible to win that. And we're going to be doing more and more things like that. But also at the same time, that money will go into our general fund. We have 7 board members. We have a board call every Tuesday at 3:00. Squire, which is a big BYU supporter, big accounting firm. They do all the audits and do all the books for us. And so that goes into our general fund. And then we decide with just some information that we gather, who are the athletes, maybe right now transfer portal with basketball. There may be a few there. I know that there are a few basketball players that Coach Pope would love to have. So in that general fund, we're able to make a decision in our board meetings of how we're going to use that and which way we feel like will best utilize everybody's generous donations.
Now, you kind of stole my next question, because I was going to mention the fact that it is run as a public charity, so it is a charitable donation. But now I'm just going to have some fun with you. Craig Cusick, if I understand, is on that board. How much is he trying to funnel that basketball money towards Mark Pope?
Hey, Craig is awesome, man. He is one of my favorite dudes, I'm telling you. And he's totally behind it. He was a student athlete. And when you get these former players, they really understand, kind of some of the challenges that the student athletes do have. But he is great and has been such a great addition to the board. And yes, he would love to see and is doing some great things for the men's basketball program. That's for sure.
Well, and that's the thing about it is it's fun to have guys like him on that board, because, like you said, Craig he's walked that walk, he's lived that life. It's like Mark Pope and Kalani Sitake. They've been high-level football players. Now they're coaching their respective programs, so they're looking at it from 2 different perspectives. But they they can really understand, okay, the plight of these student athletes. And plight's probably too strong of a word, because you're right. They are getting scholarships, but there's so much more beyond just that scholarship in terms of just the overall living your life that is entailed in all of this.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is we actually, even when the players started posting about this little, giveaway that we're doing, there's a former player in the NFL, and we are going to be working with former players to have them help support the collective in many different ways. One thing I didn't mention is we're putting together an advisory council with former athletes, men and women, and also local men and business women that will also be part of the mentoring program as well. But we had a nice donation just from a post from a former BYU athlete who's in the NFL right now. We haven't talked to him. I'm actually going to give him a call and thank him and talk to him about being involved with the advisory council. But he knows what it's like. Mm-hmm. He experienced it, and he saw a post and immediately went to the website and made a really nice donation to the student athletes.
Well, that's awesome to hear. That's actually really cool, because I think there are a lot of people out there that would assume that these guys are essentially, I guess, hoarding their money in a way, but they want to give back in so many different ways. And that's you're right. The advisory council, that's a very, I think, not straightforward. It's a great idea, because they can give you guys ideas from their perspective as athletes who are now in professional sports, whether it's the NBA, NFL, that type of stuff, and also explain, okay, here's what I would have liked to have had when I was a student athlete. Here's how you can best support them.
Yep.
All right. So final thing from me, Mark, is when it comes to what you guys are trying to build here, I think people realize that, at least hopefully from this conversation, that you guys are trying to do more. And as you mentioned, your opening stanza, you're trying to do more than just give money to these student athletes. You're trying to make them well-rounded human beings and adults, and just set them up for success, whatever the next step in their life is. What else can you guys possibly do? I guess what's the scope of what you guys are capable of accomplishing?
Well, we really think that it'll have a great ripple effect. Recruits talk, players talk, younger brothers and sisters that their older siblings went to BYU, and when they understand, parents with recruiting, because make no mistake, every member on the board, we want BYU to win every game.
Yeah.
Right. We're all competitive. We love BYU. We see it for the unique school and mission that it is. We want to win, but we want to be something that has this great ripple effect where these athletes are finishing up at BYU, and when they get out into their new next chapter of life, the thing they're saying is, the best decision I ever made was to go to BYU. And so the scope of it, actually, we feel like it could be tremendously impactful if you have 600 plus athletes that are seeing some benefits that maybe most other schools aren't offering, and they're not getting. It ends up being a great recruiting tool, but it also ends up being a great life tool. Things that they're able to take with them, and we've seen that saying forever. Enter to learn, go forth to serve, and this is really something that we feel like these athletes can go forward and bring a lot of the great things that they got while they were student athletes at BYU.
Well, it's awesome. And Mark, I would look forward to having you on again soon, maybe at some point down the road. If any of our listeners have questions, I'll solicit those. Maybe we can lob them at you and let you address some of those more in specifics moving forward. But where can people go to donate, et cetera? What's the website?
It's a good question. People need to know that, right?
That'd be helpful.
The royalbluecollective.org is where you can go, and you can get information about the collective, what we're doing, kind of our vision, our mission. That's where you can make the donation. And there's also an email on there to Encore Sports, our operating partner. If you have a company that you would like to tap into some of the athletes, maybe you'd like some athletes to come to a company event or post some things on social media or be in a commercial, Encore will work with us in putting something together. So royalbluecollective.org, and you can donate for this at least $25 to win one of these items, or you also can communicate with us or contact us to get more information if you'd like to do some other things with us.
Awesome. The royalblue.org, royalbluecollective.org, excuse me. Look forward to that. Mark, thank you again for carving out some time for us. Like I said, hopefully we can do this again soon.
Hey, thanks for having us. We really appreciate Cougar Nation. They've been great supporters, and we're part of it. We are just like all the other fans, man. We love BYU, and things like this, we really appreciate to help get the word out and help hopefully answer questions so people understand when they donate really what they're donating to and what it's going for.
He's Mark Comer. He's part of the board of directors for the Royal Blue Collective. Of course, thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Cougars. Make your second listen our friends over the Locked On Big 12 podcast. Of course, BYU's new conference home. Check that out. Get that free and available wherever you get your podcasts. It's also available on YouTube. Until tomorrow, my friends, have a great rest of your day. This has been the Locked On Cougars podcast. See ya.